period here of the bye week. Of course, we'll be watching and monitoring all things World Series. Luke and I will be tweeting about that out at our WNST Twitter. It's Tribe, it's Cubs, but it's purple woes around here, at least for the next 2 weeks, as the Ravens can't win, they can't lose, but they could get a little healthier. This guy tracks all things Ravens for Comcast Sportsnet and NBC Sports Network. You know him as our local boy, Done Good. You see him on television all the time on the Geico Sportsnet Central. We welcome Brent Harris, one of our defending champions, back on. He is Brent CSN out on Twitter. And much like me, he is worn out from Ravens losses here over the last month, like all of us. What an interesting season this has become for the Ravens, because this thing has really hit the side of the rocks where fans are kind of crazy. Harbaugh, Ozzie, Flacco, everybody involved in a losing streak that's really unprecedented during the Harbaugh era, Brent.
Yeah, 4 straight. I mean, it's the first time that's happened under Harbaugh. 0 for October. They haven't been able to figure it out this month after winning 3 straight to start the season. But it was funny because, you know, we've talked over the last couple of months, Nestor, and we looked at those first 3 games and still thought, what kind of team is this? Because they weren't great teams. They weren't running the score up. It wasn't impressive wins. And so I think to some degree what's happened over the last month is not that much of a surprise, because I think the warning signs were there even when they were winning. And certainly I think the injuries has not helped. I mean, you look and 5 Pro Bowl players are out on Sunday against the Jets. That doesn't help. But I will say this. Some of those players that are out, it's hard to say that you expected a whole lot out of them because they were coming back from injury, like a Terrell Suggs or Steve Smith. These guys, Elvis Dumervil, up in age, they should have been doing a much better job up to this point, filling in behind them with talent in the draft, maybe in free agency. It seems like their plan moving forward once these guys are gone, the veterans, isn't a great plan, because obviously they're not ready to step in because they're not playing great football right now with some of those veteran players out.
Perryman, interestingly enough, both of the interceptions that wound up getting hung on Flacco. I think when it comes out in the wash, and I think intelligent people know this, and I know other people who've played the game on your network and others have discussed this. The Brashad Perryman thing, he didn't get on the field last year. He's on the field now, and he's not running the right routes. He's not doing the right thing. And, Flacco didn't roll him under the bus in the press conference, but it's pretty obvious that he's not getting the job done as a first-round draft pick. Stanley's not on the field. I mean, when you're not getting your draft picks on the field and your 30-something brigade is all banged up, you lose for a month. This is what happens in the NFL.
No, there's no doubt. I don't think Brashad Perryman has had a very good season. I mean, and I think you're right. When you watch him run routes, he doesn't seem to be running them correctly. He doesn't run through the ball, doesn't run back to the ball. Very often doesn't make a play on the ball when the ball is thrown. And, he was supposed to be the guy that could stretch the field, and we haven't really seen that either. So I think it has been disappointing. You make a great point. I mean, look back at the last 5 years and our number 1 picks for the Ravens. I mean, Ronnie Stanley is hurt. To me, he has been, before he got hurt, the best offensive lineman you have. I think Perryman, a huge disappointment from last year, obviously missing the entire year, but really doesn't look like a developed wide receiver quite yet. C.J. Mosley, I think, is the bright spot, but again, he's been hurt the last couple of games and out, but obviously his potential is great, even though the second year in the league wasn't quite as good as his first. Matt Elam, what a major disappointment there. Courtney Upshaw, going back to 2012, who was a second-rounder, but their top pick, major disappointment, and not around. So,
well, add Arthur Brown and the safety from Florida State as well, Terrence Brooks. I mean,
all the top guys. You're right, and you do. If you start adding Arthur Brown and Terrence Brooks, and even going back to a guy like Sergio Kindle and Terrence Cody, at the top end of the draft, you just want to say the top end. Max Williams has been a major disappointment. Carl Davis looked like he was going to be great, and he has fallen off. It's tough. It's tough when your top 2 or 3 picks don't pan out in a big way, and that's why they don't have depth on this team right now.
All right, so the fans are looking for some level of accountability. You're around there a lot, and look, you, like me, have dealt with the Orioles the last 25 years. We know what lack of accountability looks like, where no one takes the responsibility, no one steps up. This is an organizational. The red lights are on everywhere for Bisciotti, for Flacco, for Harbaugh, for Ozzie. I love your sense of humor in Monday morning, retweeting the young idiot that says, Ravens second half tools for success, fire Harbaugh, bench Flacco. I'm sure that'll fix everything, but we're probably not far off in a second losing season if they've fallen and they can't get up to saying, all right, we began the year with all these 30-somethings. It didn't work out. Bisciotti knew that as well. But, at some point, Harbaugh and Ozzie, it's going to come to their desk, the losses, as well as to Flacco's desk, because he's getting all the money. This is a real test on every aspect of the organization, because it's the second year, because it's unprecedented, because it feels like they can't stop losing. And it also feels like with the Steelers coming in, the Steelers can sort of end their season a week from Sunday by putting them 2 games back and beating them, given where the rest of the schedule is. This is a tough week and a half period here, I think, for everyone, because at some point, John Harbaugh won't coach this team anymore, and Ozzie Newsome won't be the personnel guy. I'm just wondering whether it's things like this that would create that at the end of this season if they somehow start 3-0 and finish 5-11 again.
Well, to me, it was 2 things that when Brian Billick got let go that were factors. And one was the roller coaster ride of having a great season and a poor season, going to the playoffs, not going to the playoffs. And it was back and forth. I mean, it was like watching the Dow Jones, back and forth, up and down. And Bisciotti said he was tired of that. He wanted consistency out of his head coach and his team. And the other part was discipline. And that team, that year before Billick got fired back in 2007, was very undisciplined. If you remember, that was the game in December that Bart Scott picked up the penalty flag and threw it into the stands against the Patriots. A lot of things happened that you could see where the team was really falling apart mentally, that they weren't disciplined. Now, it's not that bad now, but you certainly see a team that's not very disciplined, making a lot of mental mistakes. And you heard it in the locker room after the game. We're beating ourselves. We're not a very good football team. We should be undefeated, but for some reason, we just keep putting pressure on ourselves and making these situations more difficult. That's what the players are saying. And so if you miss the playoffs this year, it's 3 out of 4 years, Nestor. If you have a team that's undisciplined and not able to fix the mistakes, has the message from the head coach gotten old? I think these are all things that Steve Bisciotti is going to have to look at. But they were all deciding factors, and when Brian Billick was let go, you have to imagine they have to play a factor in looking at what Coach Harbaugh has done and whether or not they would look to make a change. I don't see it in mid-season. I don't know that's the kind of style that Steve Bisciotti has, but I do think at the end of the season, if they've again missed the playoffs, again 3 out of 4 years, I think it's a discussion.
Well, and I think part of the discussion is it the players? Is it the age? Is it the philosophy? Look, man, Steve Smith, Suggs, we spent 7 months in the offseason discussing whether they could get on the field. Quite frankly, I don't think any of us ever believed Dennis Pitta would catch a ball again, and he's looked fine. He's looked like an NFL tight end. He's looked like not a shadow of his former self. He looks like, a guy that can still do this, and a guy that is, Joe likes having the ability to do this with. But, for all the guys they've drafted, you go to Max Williams and Crockett Gilmore, the Ben Watson situation in the offseason, that they put so much into that position. Suggs, Smith, now Yanda, the whole over 30 club has been banged up here, and I don't know that we should be shocked about that, Brent.
No, we shouldn't. I mean, that was the conversation, right, going in the offseason, these guys and their age, and what can you honestly get out of them? As you get up in age, I mean, the injuries continue to mount. I'm not surprised that Suggs is out. I'm not surprised that Steve Smith is dealing with injuries. I love Steve Smith. I think he does everything possible he could do to get on the field. He is one of the greatest competitors you have ever seen in practice or in game.
He's a professional, man. Like,
he's
literally.
A professional.
Yeah.
Right. This is not a guy that goes, hey, got a little tweak in the hamstring, so I'm going to take it easy for 2 weeks so I can come back better in 3 weeks. He's a guy that will fight every week to be on the field. Everybody respects him, but his body is letting him down at this point, which is not surprising. This is what happens in a pretty physical game, and a guy that plays a very physical game even at wide receiver. So, yes, the injuries are an issue, but how much of that is a surprise when you look at the guys that are hurt, right? And I think that's the key, is that why don't they have the guys behind them that can play? Why is there not depth on this team? And that's what we said last year. It sort of came as a surprise. Well, now that happened last year. How do you fix it if it happens again this year? And clearly they have not fixed that problem.
6 yards of rushing on 12 rushes, Brent, on Sunday against relatively pedestrian Jets team. I know we'll praise their front seven, but they were missing components as well.
Yeah,
you and I have lived a long time. We've been through a lot of this together, sitting in these press boxes and planes and trains and automobiles. I should hope that we'll never see a game where the Ravens rush for 6 yards again.
It's funny. I mean, we were watching the game. I don't think either one of us probably thought that there was a record-setting day for futility by the Ravens.
Yeah, it didn't feel that way.
Right?
Like in the middle of it didn't. But then you look down at the stat chart. I mean, Luke and I both looked at it on the way down. We were like, oh, my God, they had 6 yards. I mean, Luke said they had 42 yards in the second half. I mean, you can't win like that. I mean, that's a loss. Even against the Cleveland Browns, that's a loss.
But you've also been around where they've only run the ball 6 times. And then you go, okay, now I get it, right? Now I get why they only had 20-some yards rushing that day. They tried to run the football, and it didn't work. They had to go to plan B, so to speak. They just couldn't run the football. And that's fine. They got to fix it. But in the situation, you can't sit there and go, how do we fix it right now? We got to run the football. We got to run the football. Where you're just pounding your head against the wall. They had to throw at some point. They tried to run it 12 times. It didn't work. They got to fix that. That offensive line is a mess. I mean, without Marshall Yanda, without Ronnie Stanley, everybody's moving around. Alex Lewis has looked really good at times, and then all of a sudden we're starting to see all that immaturity as a rookie. And I see immaturity as the mental mistakes, the holding, the offsides, lining up off the line of scrimmage. Obviously, his holding penalty called back a 40-some yard run by Terrence West. Think about this, Nestor. If that penalty doesn't happen and they have the ball inside the 5 and can complete that drive, get a score, get a touchdown, how different is the game, right? And the mental mistake by Timmy Jernigan trying to take the ball out of the end zone after picking up the fumble and trying to run with it and fumbling it back and giving the Jets a chance to score because now they have the ball with the first down at the 5. Those 2 plays, those mental mistakes are, to me, maybe the biggest differences in the game. I mean, you do it to yourself. And so, yeah, the offensive line has really struggled with these injuries. They are without their 2 best offensive linemen, and I think that's the bottom line, and that's been tough.
He is Brent Harris from Comcast Sports Mid-Atlantic and CSN. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at BrentCSN. I haven't asked Luke this, and we're so young into the week, and we're all watching the World Series, and we don't have to talk about actual game action again for another 2 weeks. We see Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Is there anything you like about the team right now other than Justin Tucker kicking 50-yard field goals? I mean, I don't know what's been consistent about this team where I would look at it this year and say, I like this part of the team. I mean, I like Eric Weddle, I think. I don't know. I mean, a defensive line and stopping the run, maybe, but they did give up 155 yards. They had real problems tackling in the middle of the field. The kicker's the MVP again 7 weeks into this. That's not going to work. I mean, I don't have much good to say about much of this beyond Justin Tucker, honestly.
It's funny, as you were asking the question, as it would come to mind, I'm thinking Tucker, you said it, and I'm thinking, Weddle's been a bright spot. Really like him, you said it. The only one you left out, I think, Nestor, is Terrence West. And again, put aside the fact that they only, got 6 yards rushing and set a new low. I'm not going to put it on him. I think that line has just been miserable. But what we have seen, again, and we saw against the Jets, was that long run. He, since being a named starter, and again, discount this week, he's been averaging about 5.5 yards a carry. He's looked really good. I think they have their answer at running back, and they have enough other guys that can be that second guy. Maybe Kenneth Dixon eventually takes that spot over, although he's sort of slow, kind of working his way back in after his injury. Taliaferro back, I think he helps on special teams. But I do think Terrence West is one of those bright spots where maybe you do have your running back for the next 3, 4, 5 years here, and that's not a concern. You don't have to go out and draft a running back in the first round. You can start looking at some of the other issues you have. So I do Tucker, Weddle, Terrence West, three bright spots that the Ravens have had so far.
I'm going to throw Pitta in there too, right? Because we all like Dennis.
Oh, it's a great story. It's a great story. The fact he's even on the field is incredible, and he's playing well. And I think it's awesome. He's a great guy. I'm glad it's happening for him. He's worked so hard to get back to this point. So every bit of success. I'm just thrilled for him as a person and a football player. But you're right. I mean, I think the Pitta story is just incredible.
If there's any saving grace in this, and I can compare it to baseball, and I know you love baseball too, it's part of the Orioles' success over the last 5 years for me has been that the Yankees and the Red Sox have not had a lot of success the last 5 years, and they've had their down periods. If there's a year where the Ravens can sort of hang around, it's going to be this year because it doesn't feel like anyone's going to get to 11 or 12 in the AFC North. 9-7 might win the division, Brent, but it really does come down to next Sunday with Pittsburgh coming in with their backup quarterback. Who can get on the field for this game? Can Mosley get back? Can Yanda get back at some point? Can Stanley get back? And can they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 weeks? Because as bad as this feels for 13 and a half days, if they beat the Steelers, all boats are righted, things are fixed, they can beat Cleveland, and they would have a piece of first place. That is still in front of them, and I know Harbaugh is preaching that, but they've got to get better in so many areas. It feels a little far-fetched to think this team can win 9 or 10 games right now.
Yeah, it's a good point, because when you look at it after losing 4 straight, you can say everything's still in front of you. You can say that you can still catch the Steelers because you're only a game behind, and Ben's not playing right now for them. But, man, things drastically have to change. You can't – everything is still not in front of you if you continue to play the way you're playing, and I think that's the bottom line. This is not – look, the players said it. This isn't you or I saying this. They're not a good team right now. I think Mike Preston sent the tweet out where he said, we're watching 2 really, really, really bad teams. And I tweeted him back and said, up until today, I probably only gave you 2 reallys. But today, I feel like that third one has been earned. The Ravens are a really bad team right now.
Yeah, but Brent, if they go out and play without these football players, I don't want to use them. I don't say they're excuses. I say they're reasons. If there's no Smith, no Suggs, no Yanda, no Mosley, no Stanley, they're a 3-13 team probably, right? They'll be lucky to beat the Browns, right?
But remember, those guys were on the field the first 3 games, and I don't know any of us were really impressed with their first 3 wins, right? I don't get a grasp.
I liked it better than the last 4 losses.
Sure, you take the wins over the losses. I'm with you, but I don't know that I'm all in. I'm not buying they can still win the division the way this team is playing. And I'll say before or after the injuries, I'm just not impressed. Can they turn it around with, look, we said it last year. Sure, the team can turn it around at some point. They never did. It's possible. The fact that the division isn't that great, they still have a lot that they can accomplish. But the way things are right now, it's not going to happen. So something has to change.
Brent Harris can be followed at Brent CSN out on Twitter, and a little downtime here this week. Nice World Series we got, Brent, right? If we're going to have a bye week and we're going to sit around and not have football this week, I'll watch the Cubbies and the Tribe. This is good baseball right now.
Hey, look, if the Indians or the Cubs can win the World Series, then I guess possible. The Ravens could turn around their season, right?
Anything's possible, absolutely. Hey, great having you on, man. Take a little downtime. We'll see you back out at the Castle next week as well as we get ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Always great having you on, Brent.
Sorry, brother.
Hey, is the beard staying or going? What's going on with that,
I think it'll be gone by the end of this week.
Yeah, most people realize it's just laziness when they see my beard at this point. I'm not showing off the silver. I haven't had time. I just saw yours. It looked good. It looked like it was something you were working on at this point.
That was a bit of laziness, but we at CSN came down with a new rule a couple of weeks ago: no ties. We're going to this casual look at CSN, and so I thought, you know what? No tie, no shave. Let's go full casual. And so I just let it go for a few days, and then it kind of turned into a few more days. And next thing you know, here we are in game day, and I didn't bother shaving. So
God, no ties. All of a sudden, I'm eligible to work for your company. It's incredible.
It's right down your street there, Nestor.
Yeah. Hey, man, take care of yourself. Get rested up, and we got plenty of football. They're going to play 9 more games. I don't know how they're going to turn out, but they are going to play them.
Sounds good. I'll be there.
You got it. Brent Harris covers all things Purple out at the Castle, along with Luke and our group, and Cliff and everybody at CSN. He is Brent CSN out on Twitter. we're trying to find answers around here, and without firing the coach or the quarterback or the general manager, because that's not going to happen anytime soon. Steelers in a week and a half, and then Cleveland after that. You can find me out in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox every morning at 7 a.m. That is all powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. It's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life at Planet Fitness. There's one right around the corner from you, and they're purple as well. Last but never least, we ship the morning newspaper to your email inbox, but we also ship the breaking news to your text. If you're on the WNST breaking news service, you know how good it is on a day when, let's say, Mark Trestman gets fired or trades happen or the Orioles hire a pitching coach. You'll get it first. It's all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home. Every Monday night, we're at Buffalo Wild Wings and Owings Mills for our best seat in the house competition, as well as the Blazing Wing Eating Challenge. I implore you to stop out, watch some football, have some fun, eat some wings with us at B-Dubs in Owings Mills every Monday night. We got more Raven Live shows coming up later on in the year, more swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry, and we are holding Saturday, November the 12th for the man who saved my wife's life. Niels is coming over from Witten, Germany, and we are having a celebration. Beer will be included. We'll be at Roost Chris Pier 5 on November the 12th. If you want to come down and celebrate, there's no cover, no obligation. Just bring some love, maybe a German flag, and we'll have some beer for you as well. That's November 12th. You can always send me an email if you need more information on that. It's also up on our Facebook. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and nasty at WNST.net. I'm a very available individual. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.